Our portion this week begins Lech, go, leave your land, your community, your father's house. This is the command, the test that God sets for Avram and Sarai, his wife. They are to leave, go to a land that I will show you. It's a test because they have no idea where they're going. And who is this that's telling me to go anyway? What they are leaving behind is well defined, but the destination is not known at all. They are set off to wander until somehow there is an awareness that this is the place, the destination. On the way to wherever it is, they have a lot of adventures. Or perhaps we could say that Avram, though not a young man, he was 75, as we heard, is trying out some new ways of being in the world. Avram becomes a very wealthy person. The Torah says he was very rich in cattle, silver, and gold. He tries being a warrior. He has a beautiful wife and experiments with being a deceiver, telling Pharaoh's men that she is his sister. By the way, he will try this one again in next week's portion. He begins to be a patriarch, taking responsibility for Lot and his family. So when you leave your land, your community, your childhood home, you are wandering and trying to figure out what you are in the world. This is the beginning of our Jewish story, and there is a lot more wandering to come in the next few millennia. But it is more than a Jewish story, of course. People have wandered since there were people, though the scale of migrations over the last 2 centuries has been and continues to be enormous. Some move because they are displaced by war or persecution, some because they believe there is something better, some just for the challenge. All of these mass migrations have had and continue to have consequences beyond those for the individuals. As we know in retrospect, the large number of Jews that left Russia and Eastern Europe for America, including all my grandparents, from the 1890s to 1914, meant that a great deal more Judaism survived the Holocaust than might have. It is this theme of leaving your home, going to some place where you don't know what awaits you, that I was thinking about while considering what I would say about Lech Lecha over the past few weeks. After all, I did this myself a few times, starting at age 16, and then most definitively in 1988 when I came to London from the US. And Rabbi Lilly is a more recent Lech Lecha person. So I was thinking about this when the Nobel Prizes were announced recently. Now, anyone who has grown up in science, as I have, is interested in the Nobel Prizes. Indeed, there's a hierarchy of prizes presented to scientists, of which the Nobel Prize is perhaps the highest honor. Certainly, it's the one best known to the public. This year, each of the 3 science prizes in biology, medicine, physics, and chemistry were shared 3 ways. So a total of 9 people being honored for 3 main areas of scientific discovery. And among these 9, one was particularly striking to me: the share of the Chemistry Nobel Prize given to Omar Yaki of the University of California for developing something called metal organic frameworks, an entirely new class of molecules, dramatically different and important uses ranging from drug discovery to environmental cleanup. Now, Omar Yaki is a Palestinian who was born in 1965 to parents who had fled to Jordan from Gaza in 1948. He lived in a camp near Amman with his family, many siblings, the family livestock, in a hut with no electricity and no running water. Somehow, he was pushed from there to leave, to wander to the US while still a teenager, speaking not a word of English, where he went to school and then to university in New York, then to the University of Illinois to get a PhD in chemistry, and then to do research at Harvard. After faculty positions at several universities in the US, he wound up with a prestigious chair, which he still holds, in the chemistry department at the University of California at Berkeley. You might say Berkeley, but they would say Berkeley, one of the greatest chemistry departments in the world. Several decades ago, he began to publish results of this new class of molecules that I mentioned, molecules that the mainstream of chemical science said were not possible, that they would not be stable, and even if you could make them, what use would they be anyway? Now, this is not just the story of a wandering Gazan to complement the stories of wandering Jews. It is that, but it is also something, I think, more profound, because it is about science, scientific orthodoxy, and what it takes to make dramatic breakthroughs in science. To understand this in the context of Lech Lecha, we take a short detour back to 1962, when a little book by Thomas Kuhn was called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions was published. I remember that I was teaching in New York and beginning my career as an independent scientific researcher in about 1967, when one of my early students asked me if I had read this book, and then she gave me a copy of it. It was Kuhn who said that as a science emerges, we learn certain things, elucidate some laws and equations, and these help us understand how things work. They're used to solve a whole series of previously unsolved problems. He called this accepted set of scientific principles the paradigm that is the basis of the science. So most of what we're doing in scientific research is not finding completely new laws, but solving problems using the existing paradigm. Big scientific advances happen, rarely, but that when they do, Kuhn asserted, it is because someone, realizing that there are problems that cannot be solved with the existing laws, the existing way of doing things, breaks away into a different way of solving problems, what came to be known from Kuhn's work as a paradigm shift. Such people are often condemned by the scientific establishment. Sometimes they're ridiculed. The most dramatic of these in the early 20th century was the move from classical mechanics to quantum mechanics, something I would be happy to give a few sermons on, but not today. A few giants were involved in this, but they were often abused, thrown out of the universities, condemned. In the case of Einstein, he was condemned for doing Jewish science. Remember that Einstein, because of his radical thinking, when he published the 5 papers in 1905 that changed 20th century physics completely, he had no university position. He was working in the Swiss Patent Office. Max Planck, one of the greats of quantum mechanics, said that a new scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light, but rather because its opponents eventually die, which is often paraphrased as physics advances one funeral at a time. One way or another, I think, whether it is because you are thrown out by the establishment or you have left your land, your community, your childhood home, it's only by being out of the mainstream that you can dare to think differently, to tackle what others say is impossible or wrong or useless, that a scientific paradigm shift can occur. So I think Omar Yaghi, though he was educated at the heart of the scientific establishment at Illinois and Harvard, he was the one who had left everything and could do the work which led to a small paradigm shift in chemistry with potentially great consequences. The Tanakh in Lech Lecha and in other places seems to urge on us radical discontinuity, what Aviva Gottlieb Zornberg calls the imperative of transformation. Thus, Avram and Sarai have their names changed to Abraham and Sarah. Avram and Sarai do not have children, but Abraham and Sarah do. Rashi remarked that Avram doesn't just leave his physical place, his makom. No, makom means more than just physical place. It is his very existential condition. His horizons are changed, and by leaving, he can achieve something completely different. It appears when we read Lech Lecha and the last paragraph of the previous parsha, that Avram's transformation happens more or less instantaneously. That is, God calls, he responds, and he leaves, and everything is changed. But Maimonides and other commentators don't see it that way. They look at other elements in the stories and legends around Avram and say, well, he saw something wrong when he was young. He rolled his ideas around in his mind. He seems to be integrated into the society around him, but he's thinking always, is this right? What is the cause? How is all this possible? In the same way, I think all of us, whatever we are trying to do, can gradually see things that are not right, that don't fit with our attempts to understand our makom, our place. As Maimonides put it in talking about Avram, he said, he began to wander in his mind. I suspect that this is what Omar Yahi also did. Physically displaced, having left his land, his community, his father's house, he began to wander in his mind. We all have this opportunity, the potential to wander in our minds, to question the assumptions about our existence, to even, if not in a physical sense, Lech Lecha, go forth from our makom, our place, and find new meanings in our existence, and perhaps, once in a very great while, new paradigms. The challenge to all of us is to use the Lech Lecha opportunity. Shabbat Shalom.